At 55, Catherine Zeta-Jones finally reveals the 5 actors she hated the most.
You know what? I'm sick of talking about it because I never wanted to be the poster child for this.
Right.
And I never wanted this to come out publicly. It came out.
I've stayed silent for far too long, endured too many stabs in the back, and buried far too many of Hollywood's filthy secrets. That was the final whisper of Catherine Zeta-Jones, the Chicago movie star, a timeless force of beauty and a blazing flame in the midst of Hollywood's darkest storms. The woman behind the spotlight was one who had bled in silence, smiled through chaos, and kept breathing despite wounds that never truly healed. Behind the velvet curtain was a soul quietly crumbling. She didn't scream out loud. She didn't slam the table or write a tell-all book. She simply confided a list of the 5 actors she hated the most. Who was first on the list? And why did they become the nightmare that haunted Catherine Zeta-Jones' life? Stay tuned until the end of the video, because this story is not just about outrage, it's an indictment written in blood, tears, and honor. Catherine Zeta-Jones, a beauty born from storms, rising through the tempest. Catherine Zeta-Jones was born on September 25, 1969, in Swansea, Wales, a land of skin-cutting cold rains and dreams of cinema that seemed impossibly far away. From the time she was a little girl, she stood on the town stage, singing and dancing as if she had been born to be seen. Hollywood quickly recognized this gem. With her role as Elena Montero in The Mask of Zorro, 1998, Catherine became a global sex symbol. Just 5 years later, her portrayal of Velma Kelly in Chicago earned her the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress and an immortal place in film history. But that glory came with a terrible price. She became the relentless target of paparazzi, hunted down even to the maternity ward while she was pregnant. Her marriage to Michael Douglas, 25 years her senior, became tabloid gold, from rumors of infidelity and separation to screaming headlines of a marriage on the brink flooding the press. Catherine also publicly battled bipolar disorder, a condition that forced her to disappear from Hollywood multiple times for treatment, while the public mercilessly tore apart her image. Her biggest scandal erupted when she sued Hello! Magazine for publishing secretly taken paparazzi photos from her private wedding, leading to a high-profile trial across Europe in 2000. There was even a time she was frozen out of a major project simply for refusing to attend a private party hosted by a powerful producer. Hollywood can give you everything, and it can take it all away overnight. Catherine Zeta-Jones, few people know that her first battle in life didn't happen on stage, but on an operating table. There's a scar just beneath Catherine Zeta-Jones' chin, faint, almost hidden beneath the glamorous years on the red carpet. But it carries a story more painful than most of what Hollywood has ever known. A mother fighting invisible demons. A legend being suffocated under the very spotlight that once crowned her. What you're about to witness is not a story about fame. It's a raw, haunting journey through pain, love, and survival against all odds. If Catherine has ever touched your heart, leave a like below. The first betrayer, Michael Douglas, the legendary husband, the blade that cut from within. Michael Douglas, the powerful man of Hollywood, who once stood in the middle of a party and said the words that changed Catherine's life forever. "I will be the father of your children." They met in 1998, quickly becoming the royal couple of the film industry. Their wedding at the Plaza Hotel in 2000 was wrapped in splendor, a dazzling white gown, eyes locked in passion beneath thousands of white flowers. The whole world believed this was a modern-day fairy tale. But even fairy tales have their darkest chapters. In 2010, Michael publicly revealed he had throat cancer. Catherine stayed by his side, fighting the battle with him. Yet before the public could recover from the news, another storm hit. Sexual misconduct accusations and infidelity rumors surrounded Michael. The media, like vultures, shredded Catherine's image, turning her from an Oscar-winning star into a woman complicit and compliant in scandal. Every one of her film premieres became an interrogation about her husband's personal life rather than her art. Directors grew wary, fearing that hiring Catherine meant inviting a whirlwind of scandal onto their projects. The pressure didn't just come from the outside. Illness, media frenzy, and the bipolar disorder Catherine quietly battled turned their home into a cold battlefield. In 2013, the couple announced their separation, a shock to the entire world. Their two young children were caught between separate trips, silent dinners, and the relentless flash of paparazzi cameras capturing every moment. Though they eventually reconciled, the cracks never fully healed. In a rare interview, Catherine once said, "He didn't need to leave me to hurt me. All he had to do was stand still and let the storm carry me away, and that was enough." Michael Douglas, the man who once promised to be her anchor, became the first blade, cutting from within, where Catherine's defenses were weakest. But if you think this was her deepest wound, you'll soon realize it was only the prelude. Because the second betrayer wouldn't just take away the most important role of Catherine's career, they would crush her dignity right in front of dozens of cameras. Don't look away. The second betrayer, Angus McFadden, the former lover, the slap on set. Before becoming Mrs. Douglas, Catherine Zeta-Jones was once deeply in love with Angus McFadden, the Scottish actor with soulful eyes and an irresistible, roguish charm. They met in the mid-90s, falling for each other so quickly that Catherine accepted his proposal after just a few months. At the time, the press called them Hollywood's new golden couple. But the romance ended in silence. No explanations, no press statements, just a cold, empty space left behind. Catherine thought that was the end of it. Until one day, fate brought them back together on the same set. The film was heavily promoted as an artistic reunion of two stars. Catherine tried to keep it professional, but from the very first script read-through, Angus made a sly jab, "Let's hope you don't quit halfway this time, like before." The room burst into laughter. Catherine forced a polite smile, but inside, an old wound had been ripped open. Throughout filming, Angus kept improvising lines in ways that made Catherine's character appear weak and clumsy. In one scene, he unexpectedly changed his movements, throwing her off in front of the camera, then flashed an innocent smile as if it were her mistake. The breaking point came during a tense dialogue scene. Angus abruptly cut her off midline and said loudly, "Catherine, you're acting like your Oscar was just dumb luck." The crowd went silent. A few eyes darted around, waiting for her reaction. But Catherine swallowed her anger, finished the scene, and that night sat alone in her hotel room wondering if Angus had returned to work or to take revenge. Some people leave your life only to come back and twist the knife again. Catherine, but if Angus McFadden hurt her on set, the third betrayer would do something even more brutal, steal her heart, crush it, and scatter the pieces across the headlines for the world to trample. The third betrayer, Antonio Banderas, the on-screen lover, the unexpected twist. Antonio Banderas, the legendary Zorro, was the man who, alongside Catherine, created one of the most alluring on-screen couples in cinema history. When The Mask of Zorro premiered in 1998, the world was captivated by their scenes together, so close their breaths seemed to mingle, their smoldering gazes threatening to set the screen ablaze. Catherine once called Antonio her dream co-star, while Antonio praised her as a rare jewel of Hollywood. But that dream didn't last forever. Years later, when the two reunited for a major project, Catherine realized Antonio had changed. During press conferences, when asked about his relationship with her, Antonio smiled faintly and said, "On screen, we're a great couple. Off screen, there's no need for it to be that way." It seemed like a harmless remark, but it was enough for the media to chew on and spin into a flurry of sensational headlines. Antonio denies friendship with Catherine. Zorro, Elena Bond was just an illusion. Worse still, during the entire film's promotional tour, Antonio was frequently seen beside a younger female co-star, beaming for the cameras, leaving Catherine standing alone in group photos. The press began to compare them, questioning whether Zorro had found a new Elena in real life. "He didn't have to betray me with romance. All he had to do was pull his hand from mine in front of dozens of cameras, and it was enough for the whole world to believe we were never anything at all." Catherine, the on-screen romance that once enchanted the world, was now framed as a faded legend, and Catherine had lost yet another person who had once been an emotional anchor. But if Antonio Banderas wounded her under the glare of flashing cameras, the fourth betrayer would leave her truly shaken, because he didn't need the spotlight, just a single phone call to erase anyone's career. The fourth betrayer, Ryan Reynolds, the smile that could end a career. Ryan Reynolds, the man who had all of Hollywood charmed with his deadly sense of humor. Catherine once thought he was the safe kind of colleague, someone you could laugh with freely, without fear of being stabbed in the back. She was wrong. They appeared together on a live talk show. In front of millions of viewers, Ryan cracked a joke, "Catherine is so beautiful, you forget she's acting." The studio erupted in laughter. Catherine laughed too, but behind it was the sound of her heart pounding. Just hours later, the clip was everywhere online. Headlines screamed, "Ryan Reynolds confirms, Catherine only has her looks." Mocking memes spread like wildfire, turning her Oscar into the punchline of a joke. The next morning, her phone rang. A major producer's voice came through, "Sorry, Catherine, but we think this role needs someone without controversy attached." One joke. One smile. And Hollywood's doors slammed shut. Some bullets aren't fired from a gun, but from the mouth of a friend. Catherine, but if Ryan Reynolds could make the audience laugh at her, the final betrayer would ensure she had nothing left to lose, not even her last shred of faith in humanity. The final betrayer, Jenna Ortega, the successor who turned her mentor into a shadow. Jenna Ortega, the 20-year-old with piercing eyes who brought a fresh storm to Netflix with her portrayal of Wednesday Addams. On the set of Wednesday, Catherine and Jenna shared a bond like aunt and niece in real life. Catherine guided her, teaching her how to command her gaze, how to hold her presence before the camera. In an interview, Catherine once said, "Jenna is the future of Hollywood." But that future ended up swallowing the present whole. When the series premiered and Jenna exploded into a global phenomenon, every spotlight in the media turned toward the young actress. Catherine was pushed to the sidelines, mentioned only as the elegant supporting role or the former Oscar winner. Worse still, in a joint interview, when asked who was the real star of Wednesday, Jenna smiled and replied, "I think the audience already knows the answer." The words were like a thin, cold, and precise blade. She didn't have to say Catherine's name, yet it was enough for the media to frame her as the past, replaced. Articles with headlines like Jenna Ortega, the upgraded version of Catherine Zeta-Jones, flooded social media, turning her contributions into a mere footnote. Some wounds don't need a scream, just a smile. Catherine Jenna Ortega, the woman Catherine once lifted up, became the one to place the final period on her place in the hearts of younger audiences. A strike both gentle and lethal. 5 names. 5 blades. 5 times Catherine Zeta-Jones rose from the ashes, though each time she stood again, her heart tore a little more. Hollywood gave me the spotlight, but it also taught me how to live in the dark. Catherine, if this story surprised you, share it so more people can know the truth. And don't forget to subscribe, because there are still many more Hollywood secrets waiting to be told.
I was silent for 2 decades, and I used to think I was living in Hollywood's most beautiful fairy tale. But today, at 80 years old, what do you think I have left to fear? I'm not afraid of public opinion, not afraid of tabloids, not even afraid of myself. I have to speak. Not to seek praise, but to finally free myself from the marriage with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Nonviolent, emphasize that nonviolent drug offenders with the serious violent prisoners is just not working.
They called me the luckiest man in Hollywood. Fame, power, and the woman the whole world adored. Catherine Zeta-Jones. But do you know what hides behind those glamorous photos? The red carpet smiles, the thank you speeches, the flashing lights, all just a curtain covering another truth. Have you ever lain next to the person you love and still felt completely alone? Ever woken up in the middle of the night, feeling cold, looking at the person beside you and wondering, is this love or is it control? And when a man breaks down crying in the middle of the night, you already know his heart is breaking. I was afraid.
You know what? I'm sick of talking about it because I never wanted to be the poster child for this.
Right.
And I never wanted this to come out publicly. It came out.
I thought if I ever spoke one honest word, the whole world would collapse. And I asked myself, can love survive when it's trapped in the golden cage of fame? No one sees it behind those golden gates of happiness. Is a darkness only I could see.
My son was a heroin addict and ended up doing 7.5 years in federal prison.
My marriage was a story of breakdown, betrayal, forgiveness, and a love that held on even when we both wanted to let go. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you the truth that has never been spoken aloud. The truth that may make you ask yourself, is my love, my marriage, truly as safe and happy as I've always believed? Watch until the 30th minute and you might feel the same fear I once did.
Now the whole world, now Scotland knows, the whole of Britain's gonna know that he wants to father my children. I just met the guy.
I remember it vividly. Autumn of 1998, Deauville, northern France. The film festival was glowing with lights, laughter, and champagne glasses that were never quite empty. I was 54 then, fresh out of back surgery, and just beginning to pull myself out of the addictions that everyone in Hollywood knew about, but no one dared to mention. And Catherine, she walked into that room like a star descending from the sky. Dark hair, bright eyes, and a confidence so striking, it made time skip a beat. I thought I had met every kind of woman in my life. Actresses, models, even the most dangerous femme fatales on screen. But Catherine was different. She had something men believe only exists in dreams. A gaze where pride and pain lived side by side.
She came back after all her work. We sat there for a little while, and I said to her after about half an hour, you know, I'm going to be the father of your children.
That evening, I was introduced to her at the premiere party for The Mask of Zorro. She arrived with her team. I came alone. Someone introduced me, and in that moment, I said the line that made the whole room laugh. I will be the father of your children. Catherine looked me straight in the eyes, didn't smile, and simply replied, you should wake up before you say things like that. Then she turned away. I didn't say another word, but inside me I felt a strange light, like the kind that comes just before a storm. 3 days later, she sent me a message through a mutual friend. I'm ready to hear you say that again, but this time, mean it. And I did mean it. I invited her to dinner in Aspen. No press, no noise, just snow, wine, and two people who had been hurt more than they ever admitted. I told her about my lost years, about my father, Kirk Douglas, the man who was always a giant I could never quite reach. She told me about her childhood in Swansea, about always feeling small next to Hollywood, even when she smiled like she belonged. We talked for 5 hours, never once refilling our wine glasses. When the dinner ended, I knew. I had just met the one person who could see through the armor I had worn for half my life. In 1999, our relationship took off. She was in London, I was in Los Angeles, but the distance didn't stop the hundreds of letters, the hours of phone calls through the night. Catherine would often say, "You're not like anyone else in Hollywood, Michael." I asked, "Why?" She said, "Because you're not trying to look perfect. You live like someone trying to make things right." I stayed quiet, because she was right. I carried the weight of my mistakes, women I had hurt, promises I hadn't kept, years of addiction the world whispered about. But Catherine didn't run. She stepped closer. In August 2000, when Catherine was pregnant with Dylan, I got down on one knee and proposed to her in Aspen. I had brought an old ring that once belonged to my mother. When I opened the box, she cried. I asked, "Will you marry me?" She said, "Only if you promise to never make me feel like I'm just another part of your story." I didn't fully understand what she meant until many years later. We got married on November 18th, 2000, at the Plaza Hotel in New York. I walked in and looked around. The whole of Hollywood was there. Jack Nicholson, Sharon Stone, Steven Spielberg, Anthony Hopkins. They laughed, they toasted, they called us the golden couple. But what I remember most was the moment Catherine walked down the white aisle. Her eyes weren't on the guests. They were locked on me, as if to say, "Don't let this world take us away from each other." That night, in a room filled with white roses, Catherine softly asked, "Do you believe in destiny?" I replied, "If destiny is you, then yes." She smiled. "I believe destiny is a test." I asked, "A test of what?" "The endurance of love." I just laughed, because at the time I didn't realize she meant every word. In the early years, life felt like a movie. We traveled everywhere together, from Los Angeles to Majorca, from Cannes to Bermuda. She was always by my side on red carpets, holding my hand like we were the only two people in the world. But even when everything looked perfect, I could hear a quiet cracking inside me. A vague sense that what we were building was too beautiful, too bright, and because of that, too fragile. I remember one evening in June 2001 after Dylan was born. Catherine was sitting by the crib, her gaze distant. I asked, "What are you thinking?" She said, "I'm scared." I held her hand. "Scared of what?" she whispered. "Scared that one day people will look at me and only see Michael Douglas's wife." I laughed and said, "You're so much more than that." But now, looking back, I know her fear wasn't unfounded, because no matter how hard she tried, my light always shone brighter. And that very light, the one I thought was a source of pride, slowly pushed her back into the shadows. When our second child, Karis, was born in 2003, I was 59, and Catherine had just turned 34. I watched her holding our baby, so beautiful, so tired, and I knew a new chapter had begun. But it wasn't a chapter of passion anymore. it was a chapter of trials. And if someone asked me, when did things start to change? I'd say, from the moment I believed that love could blur all differences. We started with a fairy tale. But every fairy tale has a part that gets left out, the part the storyteller is too afraid to tell. After the wedding, I thought all that was left was happiness. But life isn't a movie, and Hollywood has never been a place for peace. We had Dylan, then Karis, a picture-perfect family the press dubbed the new Douglases of the 21st century. They weren't wrong, at least on the covers of magazines. Behind closed doors, though, everything started to change. In 2001, I was at the peak of my career, producing Traffic, which won an Oscar, and receiving a Golden Globe. Catherine, at the same time, was rising to new heights with Chicago, the film that earned her the 2003 Academy Award. 2 stars, 2 blazing worlds, but light that intense will eventually burn everything in between. We began drifting in opposite directions. She was filming in Europe. I was working in the US. Months apart turned every phone call into questions. Where are you? Or who are you with? At first, it was concern. Then it became suspicion. I remember one night in Berlin, she called at 2 a.m. I had just wrapped filming It Runs in the Family. Her voice was cold. You're still up? Or is someone keeping you up? I sighed. Catherine, you know I'm past all that now. But she didn't believe me. When you marry someone once known as a notorious womanizer, the past never really dies. In 2003, when Catherine won her Oscar, I was sitting in the front row, clapping for her. She took the stage and thanked me. The one who taught me that love and patience can coexist. The whole room melted at those words, but only I knew. We had fought bitterly right before the ceremony. About what? Nothing big. She wanted me backstage with her. I wanted to stay at the table with friends. Our issues were never grand dramas. They were hundreds of small things that slowly built a cold wall between us. Then I started to feel like I was being edged out of her world. Catherine was in high demand. Young directors pursued her. Major brands wanted her as their face. She was radiant, fresh, and I, at 60, began to feel like a shadow in my own home. I tried to reclaim that feeling of being needed, and as a reflex, I threw myself back into work. Filming, producing, interviews, and the busier I got, the further I drifted. Catherine couldn't hide her unease. She once asked me, "Do you think I've changed?" I said, "You're as beautiful as the day we met." But she shook her head. No, I'm not talking about looks. I'm talking about inside. I feel tired, scared, like I have to keep trying just to feel worthy of you. Her words left me speechless. I had never considered that my love, my fame, might be the very things pressuring the woman beside me to constantly prove she deserved to stand there. In 2006, she began stepping away from film sets, saying she wanted to take a break. I thought she needed time for the kids, but no, she needed time for herself. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, what the press called the illness of sensitive souls. I didn't understand it. All I knew was that every day became a battle. Some days she was radiant, laughing, singing all morning. The next, she locked herself in the bedroom. No eating, no talking, no looking at anyone. I'd knock, and she'd shout, "Stop pretending you care. You're only here because you're afraid of losing face, not because of me." I would quietly close the door. And for the first time, I understood. Love can't cure illness. It can only stand there, watching the person you love drift farther away. In 2009, the biggest storm hit. I went to the doctor because of a sore throat, and he said, "Michael, it's stage 4 throat cancer." I didn't hear anything after that. I drove home and saw Catherine playing with the kids in the yard. I watched her smile, watched them run, and thought, how do I tell them this without destroying their world? That night, I told her. She froze, then cried. Not because she feared losing me, but because she knew if I died, she'd have to carry everything. The weight, the storm, the eyes of the world. I remember the first night of chemotherapy. She sat by my bed, holding my hand for 8 hours straight. When I opened my eyes, she whispered, "I promise I won't leave you." I believed her, and she kept that promise. Even as the sickness weakened me, even as my hair fell out and my voice changed, she stayed. But what no one ever says is this: when you take care of someone who's dying, a part of you dies too. One night, I woke up and saw Catherine sitting in the corner of the room. The dim light made her face look pale. She whispered, "I'm scared, Michael. I'm scared of waking up tomorrow and not finding you here." I wanted to hold her, but I was too weak. All I could say was, "I'm scared too." We sat in silence. Two frightened people holding hands in a room that smelled of disinfectant. That was when I realized we were no longer Hollywood's power couple. We were just two fragile souls clinging to each other to survive. After 6 months of treatment, I went into remission. The media called me the man who beat death. They printed photos of me and Catherine smiling, saying, "Love has won." But they didn't know that night. When we got home, I heard her whisper in the bathroom, "I don't know who I am anymore." I stood outside the door, not knocking. I was already too used to silence. I thought illness would bring us closer. It didn't. It only dragged us deeper into the abyss. Her bipolar symptoms returned, and I sank into post-treatment depression. Two people living together, like two ghosts under one roof. I wasn't playing James Bond anymore, but I still wore a mask. The mask of a man who had overcome everything. And Catherine, the woman who once walked so fearlessly into the spotlight, now couldn't bring herself to step outside. One day she asked, "Michael, do you ever get tired of me?" I said, "No, I'm just tired of myself." She nodded, "Me too." We knew each other too well, and that's why there was nothing left to say. In 2009, I returned to set for Wall Street. Money never sleeps. Catherine visited but spoke little. When the shoot wrapped, I looked at her and asked, "Do you still believe in love?" She said, "I believe in truth. As for love, I'm not so sure anymore." I knew then we were standing on the edge, and the scariest part was neither of us wanted to be saved anymore. Not because we stopped loving each other, but because we were too tired to keep trying. Those years, I often looked in the mirror and saw an aging face, hollow eyes, and I asked myself, is this the price of happiness? Maybe everyone wants to live in the light, but no one tells you that the light can blind you. Our love began with passion, then passed through illness, through pain, through sleepless nights we both endured. But in the end, it didn't break with a fight. It faded away through years of silence. And I think, if there's one thing I fear more than death, it's waking up every morning, turning over, and not recognizing the person lying next to me. They say love can heal anything. But no one tells you that to heal someone else sometimes, you have to lose yourself. 2010 was the year I thought I had been born again, and also the year I began dying slowly in silence. The doctors said I had beaten cancer. The press hailed me as a hero. They wrote, "Michael Douglas, the man who doesn't fall." But no one asked, after surviving, what was left of me. I stood in front of the mirror, looking at the gaunt face, the raspy voice, the man I no longer recognized. Catherine walked in and said, "You look amazing." I smiled. "Amazing." She gave a faint smile back. "Amazing, because you're still here." That was it. Then she walked out and closed the door. And from that moment on, the distance between us wasn't measured in feet, but in silence. In the first few months after I recovered, Catherine tried to rebuild everything. She redecorated the house, hosted small dinners, cooked with the kids. But I saw the smile on her face. Forced. The same kind of smile I used to wear in interviews after divorcing my first wife. When someone has to keep pretending they're okay, it means they're already quietly falling apart. In May 2011, we attended the Cannes Film Festival together. Camera flashes snapped non-stop. Photographers shouted our names. "Michael, Catherine!" A perfect performance. But that night, back at the hotel, she sat in front of the mirror, took off her heavy earrings, and quietly asked, "Do you ever get tired of having to look happy in front of everyone?" I froze. Then I said, "I've been tired for a long time." She turned around, her eyes filled with tears. "Then why are we still doing this?" I didn't know. Maybe because we were afraid. Afraid that if we stopped, we'd have to face the truth, that this marriage had died a long time ago. In 2012, Catherine resumed treatment for bipolar disorder. She said her emotions were like a boat in the ocean, peaceful one moment, spiraling into a storm the next. I tried to understand. But how could someone like me, someone who had always hidden emotions behind the spotlight, possibly understand the storms inside her? I was there, but like a shadow. She needed me, but all I gave was silence. And that silence killed everything. I remember one night in September 2012. She sat on the balcony, wind in her hair, and said, "I feel invisible, Michael. Everywhere I go, it's him. And me, I'm just the woman walking next to you." I quietly replied, "You're Catherine Zeta Jones, a woman the world admires." She gave a cold laugh. "No, I'm just an extension of you. I'm your shadow." I stayed silent, because deep down, I knew she was right. Then 2013 came, the turning point. On August 28th, I came home after a press event in New York. She was packing a suitcase. I asked, "Where are you going?" She said, "I need to breathe." I replied, "We'll talk when you get back." She gave a faint smile, if there's still anything left to say. And then she left. The headlines exploded. Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones separate after 13 years of marriage. I read that headline, and my heart didn't shatter. It just felt empty. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't surprised. Just a quiet sadness, like the sound of rain falling on an old rooftop. Catherine went to Bermuda with the kids. I stayed in New York. I spent nights walking aimlessly through Central Park. Everything around me was familiar, but I felt like a stranger. A friend asked, "Are you going to try to win her back?" I said, "Win back what? Someone who doesn't want to be here? Or the image of a love that once existed?" In the months that followed, I lived like a ghost. In the mornings, I'd read the papers and see pictures of Catherine attending events alone, still beautiful, still radiant. But in her eyes, I saw that familiar exhaustion. I knew she was faking strength, just like I was. One day my son Dylan asked, "Dad, is Mom coming home?" I replied, "Maybe." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "If you can make her laugh again, she'll come back." That sentence from a 13-year-old boy hit me like a punch. I've played hundreds of roles in my life, but I had never played the husband who made his wife forget how to laugh. In January 2014, I wrote her a letter by hand. No apologies, no justifications. Just one sentence. "I still believe in what we had." A week later, she replied, "I haven't forgotten." 3 months later, she came back. No paparazzi, no headlines. She just brought a small suitcase and said, "I'm not making any promises. I just want to come home." I nodded. Didn't ask anything else. We lived together again, but not like before. There was no longer fire, but there was no more war either. Every morning, I made coffee. She watered the plants. One day, she looked at me and smiled. "You're still here." I replied, "So are you." That was all. A strange kind of peace. Not born from love, but from both of us being too tired to keep hurting each other. But inside me, there was still something I couldn't say. During our separation, I had met someone else. Not to betray, but to forget. But the more I tried to forget, the more I remembered her. Catherine once told me, "You can't really love anyone, Michael, because what you love is the feeling of being loved." I hated to admit it, but she was right. I didn't love the other woman. I was just looking for a mirror to reflect Catherine's shadow. At the end of 2015, we went to London together for the BAFTA Awards. On the red carpet, she held my hand, her smile as soft as the day we first met. The photographers shouted, "They're back!" I heard that and felt a lump in my throat. Because they didn't know, back doesn't mean happy. We didn't come back for love. We came back because after everything, no one understood our loneliness better than each other. That night, back at the hotel, she sat on the bed, took off her shoes, and asked, "Have you ever regretted it?" I said, "No, but I wish I had lied a little less." She turned, looked at me for a long time, then said, "Me too." That sentence was simple, but it cut deep, because both of us knew this marriage wasn't destroyed by betrayal, but by pretending. Pretending to be strong, pretending to be happy, pretending that love could fix everything. And then I realized the most painful truth. Sometimes you don't lose the person you love because they changed, but because you didn't dare to change with them. Love doesn't die in a moment of betrayal. It dies in the most ordinary days, when two people stop looking at each other with the eyes they once had. In 2016, I turned 72, a number that made me feel both grateful and guilty. Because I had lived through things many couldn't survive. I survived cancer. I kept a family together when it nearly broke. And most important, I was still capable of love, even though that love no longer looked like the one I once knew. Catherine returned home with me early in 2016. No reunion announcement, no media moment, just a normal morning in New York. I was making coffee when I heard the door open. She stood there smiling. "Do you remember how I like my coffee?" I nodded, voice shaky. 2 spoons of sugar, no milk." She laughed. "You remembered." Then we sat opposite each other. We didn't say anything for a few minutes. But that silence, it wasn't heavy anymore. It was the quiet of 2 people who had died together and found a way back to the same world. That September, we went to the Toronto Film Festival to promote Flatliners. She wore a red dress. I wore a black suit. Stepping onto the red carpet, the press shouted, "They're back!" Catherine leaned toward me and softly said, "I didn't think we would stand here together again." I said, "Neither did I." She asked, "Then why are we here?" I smiled. "Because we didn't leave." And that's right. Neither of us left. We had only gotten lost, and now we'd found our way home. In the years that followed, we relearned how to talk as people, not icons. I stopped pretending to be strong. She stopped pretending to be okay. One day I sat in my study reading through old letters from her, handwritten lines from 1999, when we were madly in love. "I'm scared the light around you will burn me, yet I still want to be near you." I laughed, and tears came. She entered the room, saw me holding the letter, and whispered, "I wrote that?" I nodded, "And you were right." She took my hand and said, "But I never left." In 2018, we celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary. We sat by the lake at a Bermuda retreat, where our sweetest and bitterest memories rested. I asked, "Catherine, did you ever think we would divorce?" She answered, "Yes, many times. But then I thought, if I leave, who will understand me like you do?" I was silent, gazing at the still water, and I understood. Sometimes love doesn't survive on passion, but on shared memories, memories no one else can understand. Then the pandemic of 2020 arrived. The world shut down, Hollywood grew quiet, and for the first time in 20 years, we stayed home together for months. No interviews, no red carpets, no one pretending to smile at cameras. Just two real people, gray hair and shaking hands. Catherine learned to cook. I learned to garden. Each evening, we went out on the balcony to watch the sunset. One night she asked, "Do you regret anything?" I answered, "No, because even if I started over, I'd choose you again." She smiled, tears falling. "Me too. But next time, say it sooner." I'll always remember a moment in the summer of 2021, at a friend's wedding when At Last played. Catherine pulled my hand and led me to the dance floor. I said, "I'm too old." She laughed, "Then you stay standing. I'll dance around you." And she did, spinning under the golden lights, her dress floating, as if the last 20 years had never existed. I stood there, watching the woman I love, and I understood that real love doesn't disappear. It just changes its rhythm. In 2022, when Catherine accepted the role in Wednesday, she said, "I fear everyone will compare me to the version of me from years ago." I replied, "Don't. Because you are no longer the 30-year-old Catherine Zeta Jones. You are someone who has walked through hell and still dares to smile." She looked at me for a long moment, then said, "And you are the only one who's ever witnessed that hell." I laughed. "Because I'm the one who built it with you." We laughed together, a laughter only those who've lost everything can understand. In 2023, I turned 79. I'm no longer acting in as many films, but I write, I teach, I speak to students about cinema. Whenever they ask, "What do you regret most?" I always answer, "I regret staying silent for so long." I tell them that in love, you can forgive every mistake, except one: silence. Because silence kills trust faster than lies ever could. Now, as I sit writing these lines, Catherine is across the room reading a script. Her hair is streaked with silver, but her eyes are still bright. She looks up at me and smiles. "Are you writing about me again?" I respond, "No, I'm writing about us." She asks, "And how does it end?" I say, "It hasn't ended. We are still here." I think about the past, about the nights I walked out of the house because I couldn't bear the silence between us, the times I said cruel words just to protect my